The Corvette, America's sports car. Here's me as a little tyke sitting in my uncle's 1985 Chevrolet Corvette, black on black with a Doug Nash 4+3 manual transmission. Here's me, my brother, and my late grandfather, who for some reason is staring out into a field, probably thinking about homemade wine. He was a World War II veteran who did his best. May God rest his soul. Anyways, look at the sense of wonder on my brother's face. And look at how much fun I'm having. It's been over 30 years since these pictures were taken, and a lot of things have changed, but some haven't. What's still the same is this. Corvettes are still awesome, my uncle is still buying them, and I've still never driven one. What's different is that the Corvette is now a mid-engine supercar, and I have not only a driver's license, but also a Janky YouTube channel that affords me the excuse and the luxury of badgering my way into the driver's seat of other people's cars. On a recent trip down to the greater Washington, D.C. area to, among other things, drop off a toilet I painted, something which curiously has also remained a constant in my life, I was able to stop by and visit my family. We talked and reminisced. I heard stories of yesteryear that gave meaning and context to my life, and we got the old scrapbook out, which included the long-lost photos of the car that inspired the 3 decades-long moment in the making that was now about to transpire. I can't thank them enough for all their generosity of spirit and fine hospitality. There was only one thing left to do. As I graciously took the keys to the car, I took a deep breath and said to myself, "Let's friggin' drive this thing, shall we?"
Hey.
And welcome back to Janky AF, and every car is a great car. What a special, amazing day today. Believe it or not, I have never driven a Corvette in my life, and as my great uncle said, well, it's always a first time for everything, and what a special occasion to be able to drive a Corvette, a C8 Corvette, a 2020 Corvette. Now, I have a picture, which maybe I've talked about already in this video, of me in my uncle's 1987 Corvette, 1985 Corvette. Way back in the day, I'm just a wee little child. I can barely see over the steering wheel. And that was the genesis 20 some odd years ago for this moment that we're in right now. And now we are driving the C8 Corvette. This is his third Corvette. He had, of course, the 85. He had a C5, I believe, in 2001. And then when he was going to get a C7, when he heard the new 2020 C8s were coming out, he went ahead and treated himself and put his deposit down, and now he's been kind and generous enough to let me drive this 2020 Corvette. So that's the backstory to this review. Obviously, it's going to be very biased, and the Corvette has been somewhat of a polarizing car throughout its whole history, really. It's seen as sort of, on one hand, a performance bargain, something that is a very attainable, at least performance car, if not altogether supercar, especially with this generation. On the other hand, it's seen as the obvious choice, the easy choice, the retiree car for people having midlife crises, and just almost a schmaltzy caricature of itself. Now, obviously, as a Corvette person, I fall into the former category. I love Corvettes. If you know anything at all about the Corvette, you know about two men, that's Harley Earl and Zora Arkus Duntov. They turned the Corvette, they generated the Corvette, and they turned it into what it is today. And that long lineage of performance and, real engineering that's gone into this car has taken it from like a boulevard cruiser, like a Ford Thunderbird, into, basically a mid-engine supercar that rivals Ferrari and Lamborghini for less than half the price. So, anytime you can say that about a car, it automatically becomes a great car. We're going to jump onto the freeway and, see what this thing has a little bit, which is going to be very, very exciting for me. I'm guessing it has a slightly more performance than as I almost smashed through the gate in my uncle's brand new beautiful car. All right, here we go, off and running. It sounds amazing, it's very quick, and my pedal is not even to the floor. It's got enough power to merge into traffic. The steering feels whip tight, very nice. And here we go. Whew. If I'm sweating at all during this review, I apologize in advance. This is both an exhilarating moment and a very nervous one, so I'm just going to give you a play-by-play. Let's talk about the styling a little bit. Another very polarizing thing with the C8 Corvette. A lot of people were sort of underwhelmed when it came out. Now, there have been ruminations and rumors of mid-engine Corvette for almost as long as the Corvette has existed. If you study your history a little bit, there's always been concept cars and things of that nature which were mid-engine Corvettes. I was fortunate enough to go to the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky on my way back from buying a Volkswagen Jetta for $10, and you can watch that video if you'd like. And I stopped there and I took in the whole history, and I learned quite a few things, even though I was somewhat of a scholar myself, an amateur one. I gotta say, when I saw the pictures, I underwhelmed is not the right word, but I was, I didn't know what to think quite really. There was so much anticipation and build-up that when it actually came out, it was like, almost doomed to disappoint some people just because of all the hype and all the build-up. However, I saw a ton of videos, I watched a ton of videos, and when I saw the first one in person, from across the freeway, my eyes lit up and I said, there it is, it's amazing. It's like seeing pictures of New York City for years and years and then actually going there and experiencing the skyline itself. And that's what it was, seeing this car. And when you see it in person and they started to trickle out, and every time I saw one, I got a little bit closer to it. First it was across the freeway, then it was in a parking lot. Now we're in the driver's seat, and every time I see this car, I think it looks a little bit better. The lines are incredible, they're so aggressive. In your front, what's funny is you still see lineage of past Corvettes. You still see lineage of the C7 Corvette in there, even all the way going back to the C5, I would say. So that's really cool that they've made this whole new, completely brand new package with the mid-engine design, and they've still found ways to incorporate elements of the Corvette into it. I am not the purist who says you need to have round taillights, because the original Corvettes did not have round taillights. I am not the purist who says you need to have pop-up headlights, because the original Corvettes did not have pop-up headlights. So this is the funny thing with holding on to these lines of ideology, is that if you really go back, there was never a seminal moment where someone said Corvettes have to have this or have to have that. So I'm happy to throw that out the window. But that being said, it is a completely, obviously, new thing. I think they incorporated the mid-engine design very, very well. Obviously, you can see it behind us. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a showpiece, and it really sort of brings the Corvette into that supercar territory, which I think is like a really, really special thing. And, let's not forget, for the price of this car, it's just an incredible, incredible performance bargain. And if you are someone who's already prone to buying American cars, there's a real sense of pride around it, because it's like, look what we can do with American engineering and American manufacturing. Now, I will say, there's a couple little pieces on this car that, if you are this sort of American pride person, there's a lot of Lamborghini in the front, especially with the crisscrosses, the Aventador particularly, got all like a lot of the V shapes and the W shapes. There's a little bit of that going on. But the more you look at it, the more you just appreciate it for what it is. Lamborghini doesn't own a patent on an angular shape, so I don't think there's any reason why Corvette can't incorporate that into it. The other thing I've started to see is, more and more I look at it, if you look at this rear three-quarter, there's almost a little bit of Ferrari 458, or dare I say Ferrari Enzo, in the way that rear line just chops down and angles over. And the way they incorporate glass and different little accent pieces, you got your big like wedge on the door line, you have your beautiful little air intakes on the sides. This car obviously is in white, and I think white, first of all, as Jay Leno says, and shout out to Jay Leno, hope he's doing well, white is the car by which you determine the color by which you determine a car's design. It's the purest color, and you can kind of see what a car looks like in its sort of like bare shape. So white is a great color, and it looks stunning in white. I've always loved Ferraris in white, and the Corvettes in white I've always liked too. So I think the color is right, but because it has all these little accents, now there is some...
Uncle Janky.
Well, I'll blurt out his name. My uncle has done some very tasteful wrapping to just make a couple more pieces black. He's done some very tasteful engine accents to incorporate the red in there more. There's this beautiful red stripe going down the front lip there, spoiler, diffuser. And all that just, wraps up in this package where it's not just this solid color. You kind of see the different accents and the different shapes, but the bulk of it is still white, and I think that gives you plenty of chances to see the beautiful design lines. The hood in particular, the front end in particular, the way these just, razor sharp creases absorb light, and the way the light hits them, they just like bevel out and give you these beautiful shadows and highlights, and it really is stunning. You know, that's the thing about this car. Like, Corvette is now officially a supercar. If the C7 wasn't, now with the mid-engine design, it's officially a supercar. And again, when you compare it with the prices of Ferraris and Lamborghinis, not to mention, you know, the increased reliability, you're not going to need to do engine out services like on an old 355. It's just an incredible, incredible piece of kinetic artwork. So let's talk about the interior a little bit. Again, I always rag on GM interiors. I just reviewed a 2004 Cadillac XLR. That interior was actually quite nice, but GM was sort of notorious in the 80s and 90s for having these, you know, for like, look at a 1994 Camaro, or even a 2002 Camaro. You know, you have like the cloth seats and sort of the very humdrum big plastic interiors with the big bulbous buttons in it. You know, you might as well have been in a Chevy S10. Now, every car is a great car, so there's nothing wrong with being in a Chevy S10 or a 2004 Camaro. However, with the Corvette, I think, you know, for it to really compete on a level with those Italian cars and German cars, their interior game was always just a bit lacking. And I think with this car, they've absolutely blown it out of the water. Not only are the materials and the quality materials fantastic, everything just feels very tight, and you're wrapped in this cocoon in the design of it. And it has all these, like, for lack of a better word, sculptures, these little waterfall pieces of trim that kind of undulate and go down. And of course, like, the signature piece is all your buttons in this long single file linear line, which was a really daring move on Chevy's part. And that's what I love about it. It's very bold. They were afraid to take risks and take chances. And from what I've heard, it's actually not that bad ergonomically. You get used to it very quickly. So just a really stunning, stunning interior as well. And when you're in this car, you have a sense of occasion, you have a sense of theater, and you have a sense of being in something really, really special. And aside from all that, wow, is it incredibly, incredibly nice to drive. You have your target top. That's another holdover from Corvettes. I absolutely love a target top, whether it's my 1982 Janky Fiat X19 or a beautiful 2020 Corvette. I think it's so cool that you can have the structural rigidity and the sense of being in a coupe, but still get the light let in this particular case, and be able to take it off and have open air driving. I think it's an underutilized sort of design feature of sports cars, and I absolutely love it. We're cruising on the freeway. Do we have any cops in the vicinity there, sir? Maybe we'll give it just, you know, this is a good place to do, you know, it's not necessarily 0 to 60. You want to get your passing test too. So at 60, whoa. Oh my goodness. Again, the noise, just a sense of theatrics, and good brakes too as we let this Kia Sorento get in front of us as he marvels in his rear view mirror at what sort of, you know, amazing supercar.
Left.
Yep.
They're going to merge here.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, we're going to go straight. They're going to merge it. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, we do have a heads-up display on this car. Now, that's been like a Corvette was an early adopter of the heads-up display. Even going back to the C5 Corvette, they had a heads-up display. And boy, just what another lovely technological feature that is from Chevrolet and Corvette. Your speed is right there in front of you. It does not obstruct your view. You don't need to look away from your gauge cluster. Now, while we're talking about your gauge cluster, again, this car is really a technological tour de force. My uncle is telling me just some of the features that it has. You have automatic sort of lifting of the front end lip when you're coming out of a driveway or something like that. It will automatically raise the car, and it'll even memorize spots with your GPS so that every time you come there, you don't have to lift it yourself. It'll automatically lift and lower the car so you don't scrape your front lip. That's just you know, just such a smart thing that these cars can do. And you know, Chevy is sort of like, people always say the Audi R8 is like the most daily drivable supercar or something like that, but people always forget about the Corvette, and that's why I'll always be such an advocate for the Corvette, because it's seen as, it's glossed over as like, well, nobody wants to get a Corvette. Why not? I mean, they're amazing. And the other great thing I'll say that Chevy did with this car is that, like a lot of these Italian cars, and this is where all the Italian companies make their money, by the way, because you'll have a base price of $200,000, but by the time you spec it out with the interior you want, or the exterior color that you want, or get some carbon fiber on there, you're up to 270, 280, 290. The prices on these options lists are just incredible. So what Chevy has done is offered so many cool colors, so many interior options, and you can basically order this car a la carte, which I think is such a good idea, especially now in this day and age. Everyone likes to customize everything. So I mean, some standout colors: the Zeus bronze, the orange color was amazing. They had like a tennis ball neon yellow. So whether you want to go for an absolutely classy spec like a white or a black with a black or a red interior, or whether you want to go really wild, if you're not worried about resale value at all, and get like an orange interior with red seats and yellow seat belts, like you can do that with this car, and it's so fantastic. I will say, as an aside, a lot of these cars came with some sort of black wheel package, and my uncle has spec'd it with the stock silver wheels, which I really like. It's a very nice, tasteful thing. I have nothing against black wheels. I think black wheels looks fantastic. However, I do think that they're sort of almost a standard issue thing now. You can get a Toyota RAV4 with 20-inch black wheels, and it just takes away from a little bit of the specialness with it. And I love the old Corvettes, like the C4 Corvettes with the slicer wheels. So a nice silver elegant wheel, I think, looks really great on this vehicle. And it shows off even more so because you're not taken away from the looks with the black wheel, the beautiful red Corvette calipers. This does have the Z51 package. This is sort of the perfect spec. Although I do love a base model car, I would love to see a C8 Corvette without the Z51 package, without the spoiler, without the, maybe get the side stripe, colored the same thing. That's probably how I would do it, just because I love base model cars, because I'm a weirdo and like slow cars. The Z51 package is truly the way to go. For what you pay, I think it's like a $5,000 or $6,000 option. Your handling, your braking, and your suspension all get upgrades. So that really is, sort of the smart way to go. And this does have that. And the spoiler, which was another sort of point of contention, yeah, it's like a little funky looking, but I think you just have to accept the busyness of the design of this car. And once you accept it, you start looking at all these angles, and it really grows on you. There's just more and more angles, and it's a beautiful mix, I might add, of curved and straight angles. Like the hood is a perfect example. You get these like nice straight lines going down, but then there's these beautiful beveled curves and scallops. And a scallop, which there are so many scallops on this car, the rear 3/4 haunch has a beautiful scallop on it. That, to me, if you really want to think about it, is a perfect hearkening back to the C1 Corvette, which of course had that huge scallop right in the front door. So whether that was intentional or not on Chevy's part, this car does a great job of continuing on the Corvette lineage while being completely different in its own way. And anytime you can accomplish both those things at the same time, it's just absolutely fantastic. We are cruising on the freeway here, so we will not be doing sort of any high-speed cornering in this review. But this review, you can go watch Doug DeMuro, you can go watch a million of these reviews. You can find out all the performance stats. You can find out, how the steering feels, and, just giving it a quick little suspension test. You just feel... I'm used to driving so many janky cars, and you can feel how direct this car is. You can feel how precise it is, just, tilting the wheel a little bit on the freeway. And the steering, obviously has a good weight. Now, we could put it into Z mode, which is your custom performance mode, and we will do that now. And of course, there's a big, theater of tachometer changing. Your tachometer becomes your major indicator here. And everything changes, and that's, a Hyundai Sonata does that now, so it's not, exactly, breaking the world technology. However, it still is very nice to see. We can engage our paddle shifters if we'd like to. Shift down to 5th and shift down to 4th. I would imagine this car, and then on your heads-up display, your tachometer reads now. I would imagine this car is quite fun to paddle shift. Nice action on the paddle shift, I might add. You get a nice little click. The paddle shifters are on the wheel instead of the steering column, which I like because they're always there no matter where your hands are. Another point of contention, the squared off steering wheel. This is a very small steering wheel for how small this car is. Or for how powerful this car is, I guess, but it doesn't feel too small. It feels perfectly judged, and I think when you're making a corner, it's not an issue. Basically, it's I like it, and it obviously improves your sight line going through your windshield, and it allows you to get in the car easier on the bottom. So just another great practical innovation by Chevrolet. I love a thin steering wheel. The Tesla Model 3 has an incredibly fat steering wheel, which I don't love. This is somewhere in the middle. And you know, all the beautiful stitching on it and everything. So as I was saying, this isn't like really, you know, I'm not, you know, a test driver for a company who's going to tell you like what it performs on a skid pad and, you know, all those things. I'm not a race car driver. However, I am a huge enthusiast of all cars. I love all cars, and that's the thing. After you've driven, you know, a 2002 Toyota Camry and a 2004 Cadillac XLR, both amazing cars, but this car really just has all the panache and all the glitz and all the glamour to make it something really, really special. Ugh. So even in automatic mode, in the Z mode, you feel it doing these kind of harsh downshifts, which I really, really like. Again, we're gonna merge here. We'll give it a couple pulls for you and then we'll wrap up. One last thing I'll mention, the actual rear view mirror can be a mirror, can also be a camera, which is just another piece of technological tour de force. We're gonna wind it out here a little bit. Yeah! All right, that's been amazing. The car's amazing. I love it. If you're considering buying, you know, a high-end sports car, don't forget about the Corvette. They're quite an amazing car. Thank you so much to my mysterious unnamed uncle, who is a very, very generous person. I can't thank him enough. And this, again, to wrap up, just ties back to this moment 20-some years ago with my fascination of the Corvette. And, you know, it's coming full circle. The first time I've ever driven a Corvette. So what a day for me. What a day for Janky AF. And, boy, can't thank you enough. So there you have it. Every car is a great car. 2020 Chevrolet Corvette. See you next time. Janky do thank you.
You might have a cop up here.
Oh.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.